Single Dada's shocking role at X's wedding revealed a touching truth that left her in tears. Jake wiped the grease off his hands, his heart racing as he read the text again on his cracked screen. "You know, I've always wanted you to be my best man." Rachel's words felt like a punch in the gut, twisting memories of laughter and arguments, a past tangled with loss and longing. The wedding was in just a few days, and he was supposed to stand by her side, celebrating her new life. How could he support her when all he felt was a rising tide of resentment? Ellie burst through the garage door, her energy sparking light into the dim space. "Dad, look what I found," holding up a rusty gear like it was the grand prize. Her innocence sparked something tender in him, reminding him why he worked late nights, why he put up with the ache of his own heart. He loved her fiercely, but the thought of Rachel moving on with someone else while he remained tethered to the past gnawed at him. Was he really going to walk Ellie down the aisle in a few days to see her mother marry a man he barely knew and distrusted? Jake clenched his jaw, trying to shake off the unease. As Ellie scuttled around searching for more treasures in the junkyard, he felt his pulse quicken. Memories of their life together flashed before him. The way Rachel would laugh, the glimmers of hope for a future that slowly faded. He tried to keep a brave face for Ellie, but the thought of Rachel marrying again felt like sand slipping through his fingers. The pressure of being the perfect dad while wrestling with his own pain swirled in his chest like a storm. He felt torn, uncertain about his next move. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days wore on, whispers began to reach his ears about Rachel's fiancé, rumors that sent icy fingers of dread creeping down his spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that this man, this new potential father figure, could harm Ellie in ways he didn't fully understand. Jake's mind spiraled into desperation. Protecting Ellie was his primary instinct, yet he didn't want to act out of jealousy or anger. What right did he have to judge Rachel's choices when he was hardly a perfect man himself? The wedding day arrived, and the church bells tolled, their sound wrapping around his heart like a vice. He struggled with what felt like a moral obligation and the instinctive drive to shield his daughter from potential harm. As he shuffled through the crowd, he caught Rachel's eye. She looked radiant, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing inside him. They needed to talk, and they had to do it now, but did he even know how to voice the fears threatening to consume him? Standing in that doorway between honoring their past and confronting the truth felt unbearable. Moments ticked by, heavy with tension, and just as he resolved to confront Rachel, his phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. The shocking news awaited him, a revelation that could shatter more than just her wedding, the dread unfurling in his stomach, muting the world around him. Jake felt the air thicken, knowing he stood on the precipice between love for his daughter, loyalty to Rachel, and the looming specter of dangerous truths. Would he let Ellie walk into a life wrapped in secrecy and potential heartache? Time stretched, each second pulling him closer to a decision that could redefine their future. The phone buzzed again, the notification jarring him from his turbulent thoughts. Jake's eyes darted to the screen, a text from an unknown number. His heart raced as he hesitated, uncertain if he should even look. Ignoring it felt foolish. How could he be unprepared for something worse when it had already gripped him so tightly? With a deep breath, he opened the message. "I know what's happening. Protect your daughter." The words were chilling, a simple sentence laden with implications. His instincts screamed that he needed to act, but what could he possibly do? Defending Ellie felt like striking out into a dark void without knowing what lay ahead. He was forced to confront his responsibilities in that moment. Being a father wasn't merely about providing for Ellie or sharing joyful moments. It was about protecting her from harm, even if that danger was shrouded in mystery. The thought of Rachel's fiancé lurking in their lives, a potential threat lingering beneath a facade of well-intentioned charm, ignited a deep resolve within him. Jake's eyes scanned the gathering crowd again, searching for Rachel, for the man who might become a permanent fixture in their lives. The wedding was supposed to be a celebration, but it felt more like a funeral for the life he had imagined. He had to talk to Rachel. His ability to communicate his concerns was his only weapon, but would it have any effect? Ellie tugged at his shirt, bringing him back to the moment, her tiny fingers warm and trusting. "Dad, are you okay?" Her eyes sparkled with innocence as if she could sense the storm churning within him. He bent down, forcing a smile to reassure her, but her question revolved back in his mind. Was he really okay? Just then, the organ began to play, and the wedding march filled the air. Jake's gaze snapped back to Rachel as she began to walk down the aisle, radiating a joy he wished he could share. Yet, inside, he felt as though he were being torn apart. This wasn't simply about his feelings. There was more at stake: Ellie's safety, her emotional well-being. As Rachel approached, he took a step forward, feeling the weight of a pivotal conversation pressing down on him. But in that vulnerable moment, he caught a glimpse of her fiancé standing at the altar. A tall man, adjusting his tie with a confident flick, a smile that felt practiced and polished. Anger rippled through him. How could she choose this man without realizing the potential fallout? The ceremony was unfolding, and Jake felt the fabric of his resolve in tatters. Could he really allow his daughter to marry into uncertainty? A newfound determination sprang within him, fueled by the palpable fear that gripped his heart. He couldn't stand idly by. He had to gather information, uncover truths about this unknown figure. A plan began to form as he stepped back from the ceremony, calculating his steps like a chess player anticipating his opponent's moves. He could quietly observe, perhaps even meet Rachel's fiancé under the guise of pleasantries, and gauge the man's intentions. Suddenly, a figure stepped in front of him, breaking his concentration. It was a friend from the past, someone he hadn't seen in years. "Jake, long time no see. What brings you here?" she asked, oblivious to the turmoil in his mind. Jake nodded but felt the urgency pulsing through him. The spell of distraction needed to be broken swiftly. He had a mission, a revelation to unravel, and as much as he wanted to engage, the stakes were far too high. "Good to see you," he muttered, his mind racing. "But I really need to go find someone." And with that, he brushed past her, feeling the pull of destiny as he headed toward the unknown. What he didn't expect was the shocking confrontation ahead, one that would force him to confront not only Rachel's fiancé but also the hidden truths about himself. Would he find bravery in the chaos? Would this response to the threat lead him to a deeper understanding of his role as a father? Jake quickened his pace, heart pounding, fully aware the moment of confrontation was fast approaching. The very fabric of his life was about to unravel, or perhaps, if he played his cards right, be rewoven into something stronger. Jake maneuvered through the crowd, his focus unyielding as he locked eyes on Rachel's fiancé, Mark, who was now engaging with guests near the altar. Each step felt heavier, infused with the gravity of the choice he was making. Today was not merely about reconciling with a past love but a battle for Ellie's future. The urgency within him sharpened into a formidable resolve. Mark stood with an ease that belied the tension in Jake's chest. Was it confidence born from genuine character or the deceptive allure of a practiced charmer? Jake's instincts pushed him forward, the old patterns of avoidance crumbling under new convictions. The task ahead should have been daunting, but clarity ignited a quiet determination. As Jake approached, Mark turned, his expression morphing into a polite smile that felt like a mask, concealing something deeper. "Hey there, you must be Jake. Rachel's told me a lot about you," Mark said, extending his hand. Jake hesitated. "Nice to meet you, Mark." The grip was firm, but Jake couldn't shake the uneasiness fluttering in his stomach. He was done playing polite. This encounter carried the weight of Ellie's well-being. "Great wedding, huh? Lots of happy faces around," Mark continued, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath Jake's composed exterior. Every forced interaction felt like a seed being subtly sown, and Jake felt the pressure to squeeze out the truth before it buried itself in pleasantries. "Yeah, it is." Jake's voice trailed off, uncertain. "Listen, can we talk for a moment?" Mark's eyebrows rose, a mix of curiosity and conceit painting his features. Sure, what's on your mind? He led Jake away from the crowd, to a quieter alcove next to the reception area, where the noise softened. It was now or never. Rachel and I have history, Jake began, feeling every word solidify the ground he stood on. I need to know what your intentions are with my daughter. Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise overtaken by a glimmer of disdain. Ellie's just a child. She'll adapt. Not your child, Jake countered, leaning slightly closer. You don't know the bond we have. I won't let anyone put that at risk. A moment hung between them like a taut string. The air thickened, not just with tension but with the gravity of Jake's very soul in the confrontation. Here he was, laying bare his heart in the face of an adversary he'd never wanted to acknowledge. Mark scoffed, crossing his arms. You're really going to act like you've got her best interests at heart? You think you can keep her sheltered forever? With those words, Jake felt something shift in awareness that he too had been stuck in his own narrative of fear. Could he truly protect Ellie from the world? It's not about sheltering her, he replied, voice steady. It's about ensuring she's surrounded by people who genuinely care for her. Jake's certainty surprised him, and for a brief moment, he saw a flash of uncertainty on Mark's face. That crack in the armor was a revelation, a moment that echoed back to Jake a reminder that he was more than just a father. He was a guardian of his daughter's future. How do I know you're not the one with the hidden truths? Mark retorted, attempting to regain control. Because I'm here, confronting you, Jake said, feeling the pulse of conviction in his veins. Your charm won't dupe me. I need to know where you stand if there's any darkness in your past that could possibly affect Ellie. Mark's silence was palpable, and Jake saw the threads of their interaction unravel. The facade was cracking, revealing the frost of vulnerability beneath. Sometimes the truth isn't pretty, Mark finally shot back, his bravado dimming. You should consider that before throwing stones. With that, the atmosphere shifted again, charged with an understanding of the risks each party brought to the table. Jake felt anchored in this confrontation, a tenuous bridge forming between them, yet the looming threat was far from resolved. Jake's chest tightened. He needed to stay alert not just for Ellie but for himself. I'm not here to battle. I'm here to protect what's most important to both of us. But something else gripped his insides, a prickling realization that felt expansive. Understanding the man in front of him might hold the key to unearthing Mark's true colors. He had entered an uncharted territory in his fatherhood, standing his ground yet ready to listen. Let us start over, Jake said, masking the intensity of the moment with a cautious olive branch. If we're going to make this work for Ellie, we both have to be honest. What'll it take to build some trust? As he posed the question, he knew it was not just about Mark, but a discovery of himself, a willingness to extend trust in the hope that it would be returned. And as Mark began to respond, Jake felt a precarious moment forming, an opportunity to uncover not just the man standing before him, but the truths he'd buried deep within. Could a comprehensive conversation emerge from this confrontation? The stakes remained high, and the answer blurred with the uncertainty swirling around them. What lay hidden beneath the surface of Mark's polished exterior? The implications of Jake's inquiry lingered, as did the one question that loomed larger. Was he ready to face the revelations yet to unfold? Jake's mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions as he stood opposite Mark. The air between them felt electric, pregnant with unspoken words and hidden fears. Self-doubt clawed at him, whispering that perhaps he had misstepped in his approach. What if this confrontation pushed Mark further away, jeopardizing his daughter's happiness instead of securing it? But then, another part of him, a stronger, more resolute voice, reminded him of why he was here. Ellie's future depended on the choices he made today. Mark shifted slightly, the tension in his posture revealing a flicker of uncertainty. Trust isn't given freely, he muttered, his veneer of confidence fraying. You think we can just sit down and hash this out like it's a business deal? Jake studied Mark closely, searching for a crack in his facade that might lead to a deeper understanding. I'm not expecting easy answers, Mark. But if we want any chance of making this work, he paused, Taking a breath to steady himself, we have to talk about what really matters. About Ellie. Mark exhaled sharply, a barely contained frustration punctuating his words. And it's all about the kid for you, huh? What about Rachel? What about her happiness? Jake felt a momentary heat rise in him. Was Mark dismissing the very essence of his concern? He wanted to scream that his love for Ellie was intertwined with Rachel's past, with their shared history. But he tempered his emotions, channeling them into clarity. I'm not here to undermine Rachel or the life you two are building. I'm here because I need to understand that Ellie is in a loving environment. The challenge hung heavy in the air. Mark seemed to grapple with Jake's resolve, the moment a psychological duel of sorts, each deciphering the other's intentions. Jake felt adrenaline coursing through him, focusing him like a laser beam on the only thing that mattered. What's your plan for Ellie? How involved are you willing to be? Mark's mouth twisted into a defensive grin, but it faltered. I can't look over my shoulder every time I want to spend time with her. Man. I get it, you think you're some protective father. The implication hit Jake hard. The reflex to defend his role surged through him. I'm not trying to be a gatekeeper. I'm trying to protect my daughter from potential heartache. You might be the one she sees as a father figure, but that doesn't grant you all the access without accountability. The words seemed to give Mark pause. For the first time, Jake saw uncertainty, an echo of vulnerability that might have been lurking beneath his confident exterior. But Mark quickly masked it. Ellie won't be harmed in my presence. That's a guarantee. Guarantees don't mean much if there's no trust backing them. Jake replied firmly. So, are you willing to discuss the past, your past? Because there's more than just you and me at stake here. The challenge loomed, and with it came a tangible quiet. Could this tiny fragment of honesty catalyze further revelations? Would Mark open up, shedding the persona that Jake had come to suspect was a mere shield? Jake felt anticipation twist in his gut. Fine, Mark conceded at last, his voice lower, a hint of gravity threading through. But this isn't gonna be pretty, Jake. Sometimes the truth doesn't make heroes out of men. Jake's heart raced. He had hoped they could unlock new avenues of trust. The potential was palpable. As fragments of both men's pasts lingered like dark clouds, ready to rain stormy secrets, Jake felt torn between his instincts and lingering doubt. With every passing second, he sensed the importance of breaking through the pretense. Then let us start there, Jake pressed, urgency in his voice. I can handle whatever it is. Just be truthful for Ellie's sake. Mark inhaled slowly, as though searching for his own grounding. The moment felt loaded with possibilities, each heartbeat echoing a decision that could redefine their future roles. Jake was about to learn the depths of their confrontation, and he steeled himself for the unforeseen truths. But as Mark's expression shifted, Jake's pulse quickened. The next words spoken could unravel their chaos or ignite a deeper conflict. Uncertainty mingled with hope. The moment hung precariously in the balance, a delicate crossroads waiting to be uncovered. What revelations awaited them as they peeled back layers of emotion? Would honesty bring them closer together or create an even wider chasm? The winds shifted, swirling around them, hinting at an impending storm of truth, a reckoning too significant to ignore. Mark's gaze locked onto Jake's, the intensity of their standoff crackling in the charged atmosphere. Jake could almost see the gears turning in Mark's mind, as the man weighed how much of his past he was willing to lay bare. Each second felt stretched, thick with unspoken tension. All right, Mark finally said, his tone softer yet tinged with defiance. But just know this isn't going to absolve you of anything either. He hesitated, flicking his eyes away as if searching for the thread to his narrative. It all started when Rachel and I were just kids ourselves. We didn't know what we were doing. Jake leaned in slightly, his heart lodged in his throat. He was cautiously intrigued, aware that this was a pivotal moment for both of them. Go on, he urged, his voice low. Mark shifted uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his neck as he spoke. We had high hopes, plans, dreams, but life, it gets messy. And in the mess, Ellie happened a surprise. We didn't even know if we were ready. Hell, I wasn't ready. Jake sensed the sincerity in Mark's vulnerability. It was a glimpse of the chaos and confusion behind the facade, something he could empathize with. Life had dealt him similar hands. He remembered his own reckless youth, compounded by the responsibility of fatherhood. But that didn't justify what I did. Mark's voice wavered, hinting at a deeper regret. I let my own issues dictate my actions. I wasn't there for Rachel or Ellie. I let them down. For the first time, Jake felt something shift within himself. This truth, raw and painful, opened the door to compassion. The judgment he had harbored for Mark began to ebb, making space for a shared humanity. You're admitting that, Jake replied carefully, and it takes strength. Growth comes from facing who we really are, not just hiding behind the mistakes. Mark's gaze softened, the lines of frustration easing slightly. And what about you, Jake? You think you've got it all figured out? You know the weight of these ideals you're pushing for wearing that father badge while trying to protect Ellie? But do you really ask yourself why that matters so much? The question landed like a stone, forcing Jake to confront his own demons. He opened his mouth but stopped short. The impulse to defend his corner rose again, but he fought it back, forcing himself to reflect. I do it for her, he finally replied, a whisper of vulnerability breaking through. Every decision, every confrontation stems from wanting the best for her. Everything I lost when Rachel left, I fear I'll lose Ellie too. Mark caught his breath, a hint of empathy flickering in his eyes. You know, that fear may be why you're so tight around the edges. Control can blind you. Trust is vital, and it goes both ways. Jake pondered the wisdom in Mark's words. If his instinct had been to secure, could it be transformed into something gentler? He could see a man wrestling with his own vulnerabilities, just as he was. The realization struck him perhaps they were more similar than he assumed. With a somber nod, Jake replied, then let us cultivate some trust between us. I can't make the past disappear, but let's not let it define our children's future. Every word felt heavy with intention, a tentative bridge being built from the ashes of their confrontation. As a semblance of understanding flickered in the space between them, Jake's stomach clenched with anticipation. Something transformative was happening. The air was charged differently now, less with fear and more with potential. Just then, Mark's phone buzzed loudly, cutting through the moment. As he glanced at the screen, the look on his face shifted from introspection to concern. I need to take this. As he stepped aside to answer, Jake felt the air grow dense with uncertainty once again. Questions flooded his mind. What had he just learned about boundaries and forgiveness? About the egos driving their fears? Would this moment sustain itself, or would it unravel the progress they'd begun to forge? Jake's thoughts raced, a maelstrom of possibilities rushing forward. What would the call reveal, and how would it affect their fragile pact? The stakes felt higher than ever, and he sensed the narrative was far from complete. The tension hung heavy, poised for another slip or breakthrough. What awaited Jake now, understanding or regression? Would he step forward into newfound clarity or retreat into defensiveness? It was clear the evolution of their relationship hinged precariously on the next few moments. Jake felt the tension stretch in the air, an ominous shroud that blanketed him as he watched Mark walk away, the ghost of their delicate conversation lingering behind him. The moment they had just shared seemed to hang in the balance, waiting to be defined by whatever happened next. Would the wall they had nudged between each other merely crumble as Mark stepped further into his world, or would Jake remain fortified in his own insecurities? The chirp of Mark's phone echoed sharply, and for a moment, Jake's mind reeled, grappling with the uncertainty that accompanied it. What kind of call demanded immediate attention? Was it something urgent about Ellie, a potential crisis? Or perhaps something more benign? The questions coiled tighter in his chest. He wanted to dismiss his concerns, yet the instinct to protect Ellie spilled over, almost primal in its intensity. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, grappling not just with the uncertainty of Mark's call but with the realization that perhaps he had been holding on too tightly for too long. How many sparks of connection had he missed while he clutched onto rigidity? Just leaning into that thought of trust, of vulnerability was almost thrilling, yet somewhat terrifying. As he waited, The distant murmurs from Mark's side of the conversation pricked at Jake's focus, causing him to reflect on his own parenting decisions. It wasn't just about Ellie's upbringing. It was about his own role as a father and how those decisions rippled outwards. He had always wanted to shield Ellie from pain, longing, and the chaos he associated with relationships. But what did that wheelchair of protection truly give her? Cloistered safety or stunted growth? The world of parenting wasn't black and white. It demanded nuances, balancing acts between love and discipline, trust and expectation. What were the ways he could invite Ellie into deeper conversations? Could he become someone who encouraged her to embrace her own complexity and vulnerability? Suddenly, Mark returned, his expression stricken with a current of urgency. "We need to go," he stated, his voice clipped. "That was Rachel. It's about Ellie." Jake's heart sank. All uncertainty turned into a focused beam of dread. "What's wrong?" His words came out more pointed than he intended, reflecting the instinct to protect flaring inside him. Mark hesitated, the hurt in his eyes a testament to their shared history. "She got in trouble at school again. I think she needs both of us right now." The swell of emotions was palpable. Fear gripped Jake. Again, he questioned, recalling past incidents, the dwindling maneuvers he had made within the precarious landscape of co-parenting. "What does she mean by trouble?" Mark's jaw tightened. "I don't know, but whatever it is, we can't ignore it. We have to approach this together for Ellie." Together. The notion trilled a note deep within Jake, resonating with the humility of the conversation they had just shared. Trust. Could it be forged in the fires of shared responsibility, even amidst the tumult of their complicated relationships? He took a breath, nodding slowly. "All right, let us go." As they moved toward the car, a quiet determination settled in Jake. This was his opportunity, not just to confront the chaos swirling around Ellie, but to redefine his role as both a father and co-parent. He felt the weight of Mark's presence beside him, once a source of resentment, now a potential ally. But lingering doubts clawed at him as the vehicle pulled away. Would they be able to navigate Ellie's challenges without losing sight of their own fears? With the stakes raised, Jake's mind wrestled with the looming possibility of facing demons he tried so desperately to avoid. The drive felt interminable, each moment pulsing with urgency and uncertainty. What awaited them? A confrontation of truths? Hidden layers of emotions wrapped in Ellie's troubles? The knowledge that their children's future hinged on their actions fueled both his resolve and apprehension. Little did Jake know, the unfolding incidents would lead him to not just confront Ellie's struggles but face a great reckoning within himself. Would he grasp this moment of adversity to cultivate the growth he desperately sought, or would he allow his old fears to cloud the path forward? The question hovered like a specter, taunting him as the world beyond the car streaked by. Jake's heart raced, tension coiling tighter in his gut. He was on the cusp of a transformative experience, and as he braced to step into the storm, he knew a pivotal moment was on the horizon. What would he discover in the depths of this tension about Ellie and himself? Would it push him toward true growth or drag him back into darkness? With the car's engine humming beneath him, Jake stared out at the blur of passing scenery, his mind spiraling in tangents. A mundane stretch of road became a catwalk for his racing thoughts. He couldn't evade the question that nagged at him: what would they find waiting for them? Wrapped in the chaos of Ellie's troubles? Would they unlock a door to understanding, or plunge deeper into the shadows of misunderstanding? Mark navigated deftly through traffic, but Jake felt suspended in time, trapped in the tension. Every second echoed with unspoken words, tremors of the past colliding with the present. He needed to resolve this, not just for Ellie, but for himself. How had he come to feel so powerless in his co-parenting dynamic? How had he allowed his fears to govern his decisions? Arriving at the school, the weight of anxious anticipation sank deep into his stomach. The parking lot was a chaos of parental concerns embodied in hushed conversations and sidelong glances. Jake felt each heartbeat echo, an urgent reminder that this moment, this confrontation, could shape the relationship he had with Ellie. With Mark stepping out, he realized there was no turning back. As they strode towards the office, he practiced deep breathing, attempting to center himself. This wasn't just about reacting to Elias' actions. It was a chance to reshape how he approached fatherhood. The prospect ignited a flicker of resolve within him. Could he navigate this without lashing out, without burying his emotions under layers of protective armor? Inside, they were greeted by Rachel, Elias' homeroom teacher. Her furrowed brows and unapologetic gaze suggested that the news was heavy. Jake instinctively glanced at Mark, who stood resolute at his side. The shared understanding spoke volumes. They were no longer isolated adversaries but united in their purpose. Protecting Ellie was an immediate priority, but how much of Elias' crisis stemmed from their fractured family dynamics? "Thank you for coming," Rachel began, her voice steady but concerned. "Ellie has been acting out lately. There was an incident yesterday where she expressed herself aggressively towards another student." The words hit Jake like a punch. He had been blind to the signs leading up to this. Ice formed around his heart. It hurt to admit that Ellie might be reaching out, screaming for help in ways he hadn't seen. Mark's hand gently pressed against his lower back, a grounding gesture that reminded him of their shared goal. "I'd like to explore the reasons behind her behavior," Rachel continued. "It's crucial for us to decipher what's happening at home. Children often mirror their environments." Reflecting on that, Jake felt the walls he built around his heart crack slightly. Vulnerability was not just scary, it was essential. What truths lingered in their shared chaos? Could he dare to probe deeper into the situation? "What do you think is causing her to act this way?" he asked, finding his voice. The question rippled through the air, charged with a sincerity that surprised him. Rachel frowned thoughtfully. "A lot of factors: divorce, school stress, friendships that can weigh heavily on a child. Have you both considered having candid conversations with her about what she's feeling?" The weight of employment and emotional havens shifted once more. It was time to lean into his discomfort rather than retreat. "We should be talking to her about her feelings directly," Mark added, his voice steady but laced with urgency. As they conversed, Jake felt a surprising solidarity emerge between him and Mark. They were stepping into uncharted territory together, learning to confront past grievances for the sake of Ellie. But the more they spoke about Elias' situation, the clearer it became that Jake's own insecurities weren't merely shadows. They were barriers that limited his ability to connect with his daughter on deeper levels. Would this moment reveal a semblance of truth he'd long skirted around in his parenting? The meeting ended, but Jake was left standing in the aftermath, unraveling a complex tapestry of emotions where clarity always felt just out of reach. How could he approach Ellie, engaging her without pouring his own anxieties into her? As they stepped out into the fading light of day, Jake's mind racing with potential avenues of vulnerability, the gravity of their conversation hung over him. Would he muster the strength to reach out, to reshape their fraught communication into a bridge rather than a barricade? The evening air felt charged, and he sensed something pivotal was brewing, not just with Ellie, but within his own psyche. The real journey was just beginning. What understanding would they uncover together? Jake's resolve hardened. He knew the next confrontation would determine everything. Jake leaned against the cool metal railing of the schoolless entryway, the dimming light of the early evening casting long shadows that mirrored the uncertainty swirling within him. Mark's earlier words, "We should be talking to her about her feelings directly," echoed persistently in his mind. They were words soaked in urgency, beckoning Jake to act, yet they also heightened his dread. How could he confront not only Elias' turmoil but his own fears about fatherhood? Stepping lightly alongside Mark, they headed toward the parking lot, Jake's thoughts grappling with his insecurities. Conversations about feelings felt alien, a vast ocean he was entirely unprepared to navigate. Yet, sensing an inkling of resolve sprout within, he realized this moment, if approached with authenticity, could redefine his relationship with Ellie. He climbed into the passenger seat, and as Mark started the engine, anticipation filled the silence between them. It wasn't just about addressing Elias' behavior. It was about understanding the fabric of their family that had frayed over the years. The detachment he often felt threatened to suffocate his connection with her. How could he transform their fragile threads into something resilient? "What do you think?" Mark broke the silence, his gaze flicking toward Jake. Do you think Ellie knows how to share her feelings? I mean, we're barely managing our own. Jake pondered that question, the weight of their shared responsibility settling on his shoulders. I want her to know it's safe to express herself, he replied, his voice steadying as clarity began to form. But she probably senses our own struggles. How can we ask her to be open when we can barely articulate what we feel? Exactly, Mark replied, his tone animated with the thrill of breaking new ground. We need to model what we want her to emulate. If we don't embrace our own emotions, how can we expect her to do the same? As they drove, Jake's mind raced ahead. Each turn and stoplight felt like a crossroad in his own understanding of parenting. The thought of vulnerability sparked a mix of excitement and fear within him. He envisioned Ellie's beaming smile and the conversations they could have if he just opened up. But the former image of himself, the hesitant father, afraid to let down his defenses, clung stubbornly to his psyche. Jake began, searching for the right words. This could be an opportunity for us to join her in expressing ourselves. If we open up, maybe it'll encourage her to share her fears, too. Right, but we need to be careful. We're not just dumping our adult issues on her, Mark cautioned. It has to be age-appropriate. We can only show her that we're working through our own stuff in a way she can understand. They parked the car, and as they stepped out, Jake felt inexplicably unsteady, grappling with whether he could forge this new path. Before they entered the house, he paused, a noble resolve forming. I want to try this with you. It's time I let go of this outdated version of myself, this aversion to vulnerability. Mark nodded, affirmation lighting his expression. That's the spirit. You have it in you. Just remember that it's about growth, not perfection. The door creaked open, revealing their softly lit living room. It felt both like a safe haven and a minefield. Jake could hear Ellie moving around upstairs, an innocent reminder of the responsibilities that loomed above him. Let us start with something simple, Jake said, feeling the pull of authenticity guide him. Maybe we join her for dinner, play a game. Find a natural moment to ask her about school to make it feel organic. We can share our own stories alongside hers. With determination fueling him, he moved towards the stairs, each step heavy with anticipation. As he approached the bottom, the faint sounds of Ellie's laughter seeped through the walls, cascading warmth that wrapped around his heart. Would this crucial moment become the turning point in their evolving relationship? Would the walls finally come down, allowing Ellie to feel seen and heard? He inhaled sharply, the blend of excitement and uncertainty igniting his spirit. What awaited him at the end of the hallway could transform everything. With a newfound sense of purpose coursing through him, he was ready. But would they uncover the deeper truths buried beneath the surface? Or would old fears resurface, obstructing their path once more? Jake swallowed hard as he ascended the stairs, each step resonating in his thoughts. Once he reached the second floor, he could hear Ellie's laughter even clearer, mingling with the melodic clink of dinnerware. It was a sound both comforting and unsettling, a reminder of the joy that once felt effortless in their home. Yet, as excitement ramped up in his chest, a wave of self-doubt began to crash over him. Was he truly ready to engage in a dialogue that felt so foreign? He paused just outside the kitchen door, listening to Ellie's animated conversation with Mark. Her words flowed freely, a testament to the ease with which children express themselves. How had they drifted so far from that simplicity? He had a chance, here and now, to turn the tide. Setting his jaw, he stepped inside, finding a moment of grounding in the vibrant scene. "Dad, you made it," Ellie squealed, her face lighting up as if he were the sun itself. "Of course. Wouldn't miss dinner with my two favorite people," he managed with a smile, though the effort was palpable. Mark caught Jake's eye, a knowing look passing between them. This was the moment, the threshold to a more profound conversation. They shared a small laugh as Jake joined them at the table, where Ellie regaled them with stories from school. She was animated, gesturing wildly and giggling, drawing them both in. But amid the warmth, the topic of feelings loomed like an unspoken visitor waiting for the right moment to reveal itself as they began to eat. Jake's heart raced, grappling with his resolve to talk about emotions. He had never been good at this, How could he expect to model openness when it terrified him? Yet, instructions from Mark echoed in his mind. Vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but a bridge between them. A calculated risk ignited his determination, and he decided to seize the opportunity. "Ellie," he ventured, catching her attention. "What do you like best about school right now?" The moment Ellie launched into tales about friends and recess, Jake felt a beat of pride. Her ease in sharing contrasted sharply with his own turmoil. But he needed to push forward. "And, what's something that makes you feel, I don't know, a little nervous?" The question hung in the air like an unfinished thought, and for a brief moment, silence settled. Ellie's eyes flickered back and forth between her father and Mark, her expression shifting, considering. Her response came like a whisper, vulnerable yet brave. "Sometimes I worry that I'm not doing good enough in class." Her words landed like a stone in the water, sending ripples through Jake. He felt the gravity of her honesty, the way it connected the three of them. This was the very vulnerability they had wanted to cultivate. Jake was surprised by his immediate reaction, a fierce urge to comfort her, to validate those feelings he once dismissed as trivial. "You know," he said carefully, feeling empowered, "I worry about things too. Like how to be a better dad every day or how to get better at my job. It's normal to feel scared sometimes. What's important is to know you're not alone." Ellie stared at him, her brows knitting together. "You worry, Dad?" "Yeah. It's kind of part of being human, I think. But we can tackle it together," he replied, feeling the power of shared experience. The room's atmosphere shifted, a sacred invitation forming. Mark smiled, satisfied with Jake's opening up, yet the moment felt fragile, a tightrope walk of emotional honesty. Would Ellie reciprocate? Would she sense their collective strength? "Maybe we can talk about it more, if you'd like?" Jake hesitated, words unspooling like yarn from a spool. He wanted to offer Ellie a safe space, but he worried about overstepping. "I mean, if you want to." "Okay," Ellie replied quietly, a hint of something profound sparkling in her eyes. Relief, perhaps. They both felt the weight lift. A threshold had been crossed as the conversation flowed freely afterward. A cadence of mutual understanding began to establish itself, illuminating their sonorous laughter. Jake reveled in this newfound energy, a warmth that enveloped him, though a gnawing thought lingered in the back of his mind. What next? Would this newfound connection endure, or was it merely the start of a much more complicated journey? The laughter gradually faded, and as he glanced sideways, he noticed Ellie staring thoughtfully at him. Her small hand reached out, brushing against his arm as if seeking reassurance. This gesture ignited a spark deep within Jake. Moments like these were building blocks, revealing truths yet undiscovered. Jake felt the excitement of a new page turning, but shadows loomed as old fears lurked just outside, threatening to intrude. What would it take to sustain this honesty amid challenges ahead? Determined, he resolved to keep opening up. But was he truly prepared for the revelations lurking just around the corner? The moment of truth felt precariously close, and he wasn't entirely certain what awaited him when he embraced it. The weeks rolled by, bringing with them the familiarity of routines and rhythms, yet they felt transformed. Jake found himself in uncharted territory, one where affirmations came not from the protective barriers he had once forged, but from honest conversations with Ellie and Mark. It was as if peeling back layers of fear had led to a newfound appreciation for the life he was co-creating. A life filled with discussions about feelings, connections, and shared vulnerabilities. He had become adept at encouraging Ellie to express her thoughts and emotions openly. Family dinners transformed into a safe haven of sorts, where laughter, stories, and honesty flowed seamlessly. Progress was palpable. Conversations about school challenges shifted from anxiety-driven monologues to constructive dialogues. "Dad, I got a good grade today," Ellie would boldly announce. "But I still don't understand fractions." Instead of deflecting her worries, Jake would delve deeper. "What part is tricky for you?" he would respond, leaning in, genuinely curious. It was liberating for both of them, illuminating pathways into deeper understanding. Jake realized he was no longer merely providing a semblance of stability. He was cultivating emotional intelligence in Ellie, a legacy of empathy and understanding he had always wanted to pass down. In sharing his own worries, he had taught her that vulnerability was not weakness but rather a profound strength, allowing for connections that could weather any storm. Things had shifted in his relationship with Rachel too. Their communications had grown significantly warmer. After a productive meeting with the school, they found themselves navigating conversations with respect and consideration. No longer was it a struggle to communicate their co-parenting dynamics. Instead, they identified the common goal of Ellie's happiness and stability. "I think we're doing better," Rachel would smile, her eyes reflecting a sincerity Jake had come to appreciate. Mark's place in their lives evolved into one of collaboration and trust. There was no longer an undercurrent of competition, just solidarity, a realization that they were all pieces of a puzzle working toward the same vision. "I appreciate your insights, Jake," Mark would say, his voice steady. "I'm glad we're in this together." The acknowledgement brought a swell of satisfaction to Jake. It was emblematic of growth that both men could celebrate. One afternoon, an unexpected opportunity arose. Jake learned of an upcoming school event, a showcase, a moment for parents to engage with children's learning experiences. The hesitation nearly squeezed his gut. But this was different. This was a chance to connect with Ellie's world on a deeper level and show her he was fully invested. It dawned on him that moments like these were not just events but pivotal milestones in their journey as a family. "Ellie, would you like me to join you at the showcase?" he asked, his heart racing slightly in anticipation of her reaction. "Really, Dad? You want to come?" Her eyes sparkled with genuine excitement. "Absolutely. I'm proud of you, and I want to support you," he said earnestly. As the day approached, Jake's enthusiasm grew. He wrestled with the still-present trepidation, but he was fueled by the profound connections they had created. Knowing he would stand in support of his daughter ignited a fire within him, not just as a protective father but as a loving ally in her pursuits. The night of the showcase arrived, and as the school hall buzzed with energy and laughter, Jake felt a tremor of nervousness. Standing amidst the posters and projects, he quickly spotted Ellie, her face alight with passion as she explained her project on ecosystems to a small group of fascinated parents. In that moment, he saw his daughter not just as a child but as a remarkable individual capable of great things. His heart swelled with pride. "Dad, look!" Ellie shouted, spotting him in the crowd. With a beaming smile, she ran over, excitement bubbling over. "Did you see about the frogs? They're so cool. I wouldn't miss it for the world," Jake said, bending down to her level, the warmth of her enthusiasm washing over him. That was when he knew this was more than just a showcase. This was an affirmation of the relationships they had rebuilt together. As he engaged with Ellie that evening, he saw the profound impact of their efforts. The experience wasn't just joyful but cathartic. Each answered question, each shared smile became a tangible thread weaving together the fabric of their renewed bond. Jake's heart swelled with satisfaction. He had conquered the barriers of fear and opened doors to connection. In this moment, he realized he had not just transformed how he communicated, but he had also demonstrated to Ellie the significance of showing up, of being present. Returning home that night, reflections of the evening cascaded over him like warm sunlight. He was recognized as an involved father, not just to Ellie, but also among the adults in attendance who had admired his visible commitment and engagement. The gentle nods and encouraging words from other parents planted seeds of confidence within him as Jake settled in bed. The weight of self-doubt lifted slightly. It was replaced by a sense of fulfillment that felt long overdue. He had consolidated his role as a father, one who had embraced the complex ambiguity of vulnerability and trust, and transformed it into a foundation of profound connection. What lay ahead was a journey of endurance, but this newfound foundation made him feel ready, and even excited, to face challenges together. No longer would he view adversity as an obstacle. It was a graceful invitation to keep growing, evolving, and learning, not just for himself, but for Ellie and their future. Jake knew there were difficult conversations ahead, moments that would test their resilience. But he felt a steady confidence coursing through him, one that promised understanding and connection. He was prepared to confront these challenges with Ellie and Mark beside him, knowing he was weaving a narrative of strength, a legacy of connection, vulnerability, and love as the closing chapter of this transformative arc unraveled before him. He realized that true growth often resided in the unlikeliest of places. It burned brightly now within him, solidifying his identity not just as a father but as a loving, involved, and fully present man. And with that, a deep sense of completion washed over him, a quiet but strong achievement echoing within the chambers of his new life. He had done it. He had conquered for Ellie, and in doing so, he had extended the very roots of growth into their collective future. Now, if this story resonated with you, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss out on the next exclusive emotional stories that await you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. We could be reaching out to so many others who need inspiration. And comment below your reactions and theories about Jake's journey. We love hearing from you. Finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the value of supporting the channel through these actions. Your engagement can change lives.